So hello and a very good morning to all of you. So today in the first lecture or the introductory lecture of Biomedical Signal Processing Laboratory, we'll be dealing with the basics of biomedical signal processing. What is actually MATLAB or MATLAB program language? Okay. First of all, if we consider biomedical signal processing, it majorly consists of two main parts. Okay. One is called biomedical engineering and next part is called digital signal processing. So first of all, if we discuss about biomedical engineering, what it is basically? So biomedical engineering basically is the branch of science where we manifest or we apply the different principles of engineering science in order to understand or to basically try to learn about the different biological systems, how it works, how it functions, and how it can be controlled. And a very important thing is that if you see, biomedical engineering has a lot of steps, many components are there. So we will discuss it one by one. First of all, whenever we talk about biomedical engineering, we will have a very important word called signal. So basically, in biomedical signal processing, the subject as it goes, we deal with different biological signals. Okay, and the signals can come from different sources, for example, humans, animals, etc. First of all, the first major primary source of a signal is important, which is a biological source. Then, the second part is a measurable signal. So, in order to process anything, we need data, right? So, for data, in this particular branch of science, we are dealing with measurable signals. That is, the signals that can be quantified or measured. And most important thing, in order to measure a signal, we need an instrument or you can say a device or an important tool called sensor or electrode. So sensor electrode, the major function of it is that it detects the signal from the human body or from the animal body. Okay, but only detection of signal is not enough, right? Because we need to understand what the signals are, how the signals are behaving in normal state and in disease state. That's why we need a particular acquisition hardware. For example, an ECG machine or an electrocardiogram. It deals with the analysis of the electrical activity of the heart. So we need an ECG or an electrocardiogram machine in order to analyze or order to take the signals of the heart. Okay, and then we have a MATLAB. What is MATLAB? MATLAB is a tool or a programming language that helps us in the analysis of the particular signals. And ultimately, when we analyze those signals, we can interpret. Now, the very important thing is what is the use of the subject? The use of the subject is very important and clear. For example, someone has a blockage in the heart. Then the doctor suspects a blockage. Then doctor cannot open the heart and see, right? So doctor will do what? They will prefer you for an ECG. What happens is that a normal heartbeat and a blockage heartbeat. So the doctor will compare the echocardiograms between the normal and the diseased person, and normal state and the diseased person basically, and then you will understand that no, there is a blockage in a particular part. So why we are doing this subject is because to analyze how the signals behave, and if there is a pathological condition, how can we interpret it fast and accurately. And moreover, as we are dealing with signals, so we have different types of signals basically. For example, if we consider bioelectric signals, we have heart signals, is the electrocardiogram, or the brain is EEG or electroencephalogram. So encephalo means brain and myo means muscle. So electromyogram, because we know that skeletal muscles have a electrical activity. And there are also other factors like, for example, respiration, then blood pressure, then core temperature, etc. Now, this is basically a repetitive slide. Now, the most important part is that we have already discussed about this slide basically. I just only talk about the amplifier, the conditioning and filtering, and the ADC or analog to digital converter. Now these three are important. Why? Because the signal that we measure or the signal that we get from any biological source is very low in strength. That is, it's a low intensity signal. So it is very problematic to analyze a low intensity signal. Why? Because the problem is the signals are very fast and they will low in intensity or amplitude. So in order to increase the amplitude of the particular signals or the intensity, if you say, we go for an amplifier. The thing is that, so amplitude means what? Amplifier means it magnifies or it amplifies the signal that is coming from the electrode. Then we have a step called filtering or conditioning of the signals. Now this part is very important because whenever we go for a signal analysis, we have lots of noise or interference. So in order to remove or eradicate the noises or the unwanted or unwarranted parts, we go for a filtering or conditioning of the particular signals, and ultimately we go for the ADC, that is the analog to digital converter. You know that analog signals are continuous with time, but digital signals are what? They are discrete and computer only understand numbers. So as the computer understand numbers, so what it does, we have to convert the analog signals to discrete digital signals. That is called discretization of signals. For that we go for an ADC or an analog to digital converter. And finally we go for a MATLAB. Okay. We will be going for next part. Now we will go for the ECG or the electrocardiogram. So we all know that what is heart? Heart is basically the pumping organ of our body. It helps in the blood circulation basically. And we have basically two major chambers. One is called the atrium and the ventricle. The right atrium, right ventricle, and left left ventricle. So the major point is that the sinoatrial node and the atrioventricular node. These are the two nodes or the most important nodes or the juncture points that determine the flow of blood. For example, what I'm saying is from the right atria to the right ventricle, the AC node will basically have an important role, and the atrioventricular node is basically type of a stop or stop gap the delays between the delays of blood flow between the artery and the ventricle. Why? So that the blood can be filled into the ventricle and then it can be went on to the basically the pulmonary circulation. As you all know, from the atrioventricular node, it will go to the ventricles and from there into the circulatory system. So this is the most important part you have already studied. And the most important point is, for an ideal signal or a heart signal or a C signal, we have mainly 4 waves. One is called the P wave, that is the arterial depolarization. Okay. Then we have the R peak. Now the most important point is the R peak. So if a person is suffering from arrhythmia, then there will be a difference in the amplitude of the heart rate or the R peak. From that, the person or the doctor, the clinician can understand that whether this is particular case of a blockage or a heart problem or not. And we have a QRS complex that represents the ventricular depolarization and the T wave or the ventricular repolarization. Now, you know very well that depolarization means there is a generation of an action potential, and the repolarization means when the action potential will be come down to the normal potential. Okay. Now the major problem regarding ECG, why ECG is important, because from the ECG or electrocardiogram, as I said, we can determine the activity or the electrical activity of the cardiac muscles. But the major problem when we process the signals, first is the baseline wander. Normally, when we are advised to do ECG, we are told strictly not to breathe very fast or breathe very slowly. Normal breathing is expected. Why? Because you know very well that if you breathe slowly or faster, the respiration is linked to our heart, right? Our respiration is into our heart. So if there is a variation in the respiration, then there will be a problem in the baseline. Baseline means the base from where your signal generates. So if your baseline is deflected or disrupted, your entire analysis is wrong. Therefore, it is called baseline wander. Wander means you are wandering about here and there or roaming about. Then we come is the power line interference. It is one of the most disrupting factors of ECG. Why? Because, for example, we normally in India, we have 50 Hz power supply. Now, if there is a fluctuation in the power supply, then what happens is, there will be continuous generation of electrical waves. Now, as the electrical waves will be continuously generated, what happens is that small signals will be equivalent to large signals. So the problem will be your P wave. The P wave that represents the arterial depolarization will be removed or you cannot see it. And most importantly, the problem will be the noise will be so much you cannot distinguish between a normal ECG and the actual noise. So it is very difficult to filter out a power line why power line? From the power line itself, your noise or interference is coming. Clear? And last is the motion or muscle artifact. Normally, when ECG is performed, you are simply told to remain calm, not to move your hands or legs. Why? The reason being, if you move your hands and legs or whatever movement you do, normally involuntary movements, not involuntary. Now, the voluntary movements if you do, the problem will be, you know, the skeletal muscles are highly active, right? So the skeletal muscles, if they start moving or having activity, then huge electrical signals will be generated, huge amount of electrical signals with high energy. That will simply interfere or change your ideal waveform or ideal signal and can disrupt your echocardiogram analysis. Clear? Then we have the electroencephalogram or the EEG. Now, the very important part is that what is EEG? Now, EEG stands for electroencephalogram. Now, as the term indicates, we are trying to measure the collective electrical activity of the neurons that are present in our brain. So, how the neurons are behaving, how the neurons are working, what is the actual electrical activity, you can determine from the EEG. If there is a clot in the brain or a brain hemorrhage, you can detect immediately using an EEG. Why? Because there will be a disruption in the EEG. Now the problem with EEG and EMG that I will come down right now is that the easiness of ECG analysis is that ECG is a repetitive peak. Like there's a repetitive pattern. It's not like EEG or EMG has a random pattern. So it's stochastic in nature. That's why we normally go for the analysis of ECG, and in our practical class in this course, we will be focusing only on the analysis of the ECG or echocardiogram signals, not EEG, not EMG. Now, the major point of EEG is that suppose a person is suffering from insomnia or sleep problem, then the doctor will prescribe an EEG. Why? Because there are different frequencies. Like if you see the slide, the delta wave is basically less than 4 Hz, deep sleep. Then theta wave, 4 to 8 Hz, it is drowsiness or meditation, and so on. If you say gamma wave, it's a high level cognitive percentage when we think, when we're giving exams, when we are working, at that time gamma wave activates. But if there's a blockage in your brain, let's say brain clot, then some of these waves will be disrupted, or if there's a psychotic disorder, these waves will be affected. The pattern of the waves. Okay. And moreover, some of the major problems in the EEG analysis is the artifacts that are generated from the EOG, is the eye movement. But normally in EEG, we are told not to move our eyes, because you know that in eye, the back of the eye, the front of the eye, and the back of the eye, both act as dipole. If you see very carefully, as the back of the eye or the retina is connected to the optic nerve. So there is a problem here also. Why? Because these two, the front of the eye and back of the eye, they act as dipole. Now, as they act as a dipole, so what happens? There is a electric potential generated in the eye path, for which your EEG waves will be affected. Clear? Number one. Number two is muscle activity. That's the jaw clench. The same problem like ECG. Like if you move your muscles very hard, or if you do a voluntary movement, the same problem will be, there will be a huge spike in the electrical activity of the skeletal muscles that will disrupt your EEG analysis. And last is the hardware or electrical interference. If you see very carefully the graph, it is looking somewhat like ECG. So if there's an electrical interference, as the EEG is random, it will deliberately make a patterned EEG. It is not possible enough, because EEG has different stages or different frequencies. So it will look like ECG, but it's not ECG actually. Clear? And the last part is the EMG or electromyogram. Now, electromyogram, as you indicate, is basically how you measure the activity or the electrical activity of the skeletal muscles. Okay, myocardium is a different aspect. Myocardium is basically in the heart. Here we are talking about the skeletal muscles. Okay. Now the most important thing is that there is a particular term that you see here called the motor unit action potential. Now motor unit means what? It's a collection or a bundle of the skeletal muscles. When they collectively work together to form an electrical signal, that indicates a motor unit action potential. And the more important point is, if the muscle contraction is very high, then the signal electricity will be also high. Why? Because you know, for contraction of muscles, you need electrical energy, right? The signals are there. So as you contract very high, automatically there will be spike in electrical energy. That will be reflected in your EMG signals. Clear? But EMG signals are very difficult to analyze because there's no particular pattern like EEG. It is much more difficult to analyze. So we have to be very careful about it. And there are different problems. Like for example, crosstalk. Crosstalk means what? Different muscles having different activity, right? So if they crosstalk, if one signal mixes with another, then that will lead to cross interference, or that will lead to disruption of your actual EMG. Okay, clear? Again, the same thing, motion artifact. For example, if you place an electrode in such a way, the skin pierces very hard. What will happen? There will be like a shear or a tear of the electrode across the skin. Again, the same problem, there will be interference. Okay. So So this is a comparative slide. You can just read it out. And this is very important part. So all the things are important, but we will only focus on ECG because it's a repetitive signal. You can easily analyze the noise and remove the power interference. And the most important point is the reality of bias signals. Like basically, why we are doing this biomedical signal processing. The second term that I told you is the digital signal processing. Now DSP or digital signal processing means when we are processing the signal from analog to digital and then we are starting to analyze. Now, normally, in normal cases, what we do is, if we see the ECG normal individual, there will be noise. Why? Because there will be a power line interference, as I told you. If you see very carefully, this power line interference, what it does, it tries to smoothen the curve. For what it does, it disrupts the baseline, right? And this baseline is right. So as the baseline is disrupted, there will be some artifact. Artifact is noise. You see a high frequency motion artifact means what? There will be a high frequency amplitude wave, which is actually not of ECG, is basically an interfering noise. So our job is to correct the baseline, to remove the noise, and what we do is, as we will proceed in the AIML classes, the major part of digital signal processing is we will have to extract the important aspects of the signal after we filter out the noise and the interference and correct the baseline. Clear? So therefore, if you see this second graph, it's called why it's called digital clarity? Because we are digitally processing the image. So it's a filtered baseline corrected R peak, as I already told you. So ultimately raw signal, then pre-processing, RF reduction, filtering, and the so the second last step is the extraction of features. What it is actually? For example, when we go for the statistical analysis, we will see that this feature extraction is one of the most important parts of any signal processing tool, because the major point is that as we are analyzing signals, we have to understand the what signals are, right? As I told you in the first part. So there's a matrix of parameters which help us to determine how the signals behave. For that, we have to extract out or take out the important parameters from the signal processing. Okay?
So this signal has certain data points at certain particular locations. It has a data point here, it has a data point here, data point here. So this analog signal gets converted into a digital signal. These data points, MATLAB takes these data points as feeds and then it gives a digital signal. So basically with any device you will see that there is a ADC, analog to digital converter. And there should also be necessarily a feedback mechanism that can tell us whether we have our baseline corrected, whether we have our signals clear, whether there is digital clarity. If we don't have that feedback mechanism, then that can result in false results. And false results, as I discussed, can result in insufficient diagnosis. So you can see here, there's a sampling frequency right here. You can see there's a gray line. So what happens is, as the signal goes on, there are very few data points. The data points compared to here are very few, but you can see there are a lot of data points here, right? So why is that? So this has high sampling frequency and this has low sampling frequency. And due to this difference, due to the increase in data points, you can see there will be a very accurate data set that you will ultimately be getting. So more the data points, higher the accuracy, the fidelity of your data set. So as we discussed time versus frequency domain, so are any of you familiar with Fourier transforms? Any transforms? No? It's okay. We won't be going deep into the mathematics. We all know. Might not be everyone's strong suit. So we'll just be understanding that from the time domain. So there's a time domain. For that conversion into the frequency domain, that is where we need fast Fourier transform. That's it. Just keep in mind for the time being, and later on we'll be discussing more about that. And I already discussed the filtering concept a while ago. So there are power line interferences, there are baseline drifts, there are noises in our signal. So when we pass it through, for example, this is a band pass, it's a type of a filter. So if you pass it through the band pass filter, you'll get the clear signal. All right? Okay. So manual analysis. So is anyone from biotech? Life science? You're from biotech? Biotech. How many of you are from biotech? Only two, three. Okay. So what happens is the human genome has 3 billion base pairs. So if I use FASTA code and if I analyze those base pairs one by one, it will take me ages. I won't be able to complete the analysis. It will take me forever. So that's the reason we use tools like MATLAB. It's very difficult to manually analyze an ECG data which is sampled at a frequency of 1000 hertz. It gives you 3.6 million data points. So it's not possible to analyze so many data points, right? So what we'll do is we'll use MATLAB for this purpose. So scientific computing would, so MATLAB, it takes anything. So if you input a number, for example, it's, there's a number. There's a number 5, all right? So this is a number to us, but to MATLAB, it's not. MATLAB takes everything in the form of a matrix, a 1x1 matrix. I'll go into how MATLAB came into the picture, why MATLAB came into the picture, but we'll have to understand that MATLAB does not take numbers. It takes, the MATLAB takes numbers. It does not take data as we give it. All right. So this is already discussed by my senior, but I'll be discussing this anyway. So it's basically the same thing. Your data is passing through a bandpass filter. Then we have a peak detection algorithm. So it detects the R peaks, as you can see, and from the R peaks, you can measure the heart rate, the variability matrix. For the conversion from time to frequency domain, you need transforms like fast Fourier transform. It helps to analyze the alpha and beta waves in EEG. And similarly in EEG, there is a muscle burst, as you can see in orange. You can see it, right? The muscle burst needs full wave rectification, envelope smoothing to ultimately give you a clear signal. So that's how we can measure the muscle fatigue. And ultimately, we'll be coming to the main topic of discussion, MATLAB. So how many of you are familiar with any sort of programming language? Which language are you familiar with? Python. So the logical operators, the relational operators, arithmetic operators, all of that are the same. So the syntax is also somewhat same, but MATLAB has everything. The UI is much more unified. You need not take pictures. I'll be sharing the PPTs with you, no problem. So you'll get detailed steps on how you can log in into your MATLAB accounts. The institute provides you MATLAB access. So please log in with your institute IDs. Alright? So इसके पहले एक step आता है, वो मैंने include नहीं किया है. That is you have to go to Google and type MATLAB. Okay.
So first you just type MATLAB in your
So go to Google and type MATLAB.
snap.methods
Wi-Fi password. Wi-Fi password.
certificate diction ওই কম্পিউটার থেকে তোমার কম্পিউটার থেকে হাত বানিয়ে দাও just wait, just confident in this.
We'll be giving you internet access in the world.
Success. Don't worry,
You need not install MATLAB. Please don't install MATLAB. You need the online version. If any heavier computation load is required, we'll let you know beforehand. But as of now, we just need to get familiar. Am I familiar with MATLAB? Have you used it before? Yeah, I've used it before. So you're familiar with the UI. So it's very easy. Looking to get there. I learned MATLAB 3 months ago, 4 months ago. How did MATLAB come into the picture? Does anybody know how MATLAB was invented? So there was a professor. His name was Professor Molek. So what he did was his work was in mathematics and computer science. So he had his students working on linear algebra, numerical analysis, and they were just exhausted writing long, extensively long codes using back in the day there was C, Fortran, all of these word programming languages. So what Professor Moore did was to make his students' life easier. He had a lot of students working under him. To make their lives easier, he then made this tool, MATLAB, matrix programming tool, and he made it for his students. But later on, in 1970s, but later on, as the days went by, there was an engineer, John Little, and his colleague Steve. So what they did was they then established MathWorks, and that's the reason you are using it for biomedical signal processing today. So did you get internet access?
I just wait for that. না পড়াগুলো বিষয় বলে দাও
So we'll get internet access in a while and then we'll be installing MATLAB. So you need to install MATLAB for me to discuss the basics, but MATLAB, we'll be first learning the basic additions, the basic syntax of MATLAB, what's right, what's wrong. Then we'll be discussing some errors that you can face while computing. Errors that may look non-errors to you, but those are actually errors. So MATLAB would give you certain errors. Then you'll have to understand that our point of view, what we see as an input, might not be the desired input for MATLAB. So that's the way we have to change our mindset going forward, and according to MATLAB. So this is the UI you'll be getting in MATLAB, right? And right now, we'll not be running any programs. We'll not be uploading any scripts to the script box. We'll just be using the command window and we'll be learning the basic commands. So what biomedical signal processing workflow essentially does is it helps you understand the source, the origin, which is the ECG signal, the raw signals that we get. The sensor detects the signals, the amplifier amplifies it, but with a lot of noise and everything. There's the analog to digital converter, which takes the continuous analog signals and converts it into your digital signals, digitizes your signal, and then MATLAB receives everything in the form of arrays. All right. Like I told you, like it does not receive the number 5 as 5. It receives it as a 1 cross 1 matrix. And then we visualize those raw signals and plot them in the time and frequency domain. We apply certain digital filters. We apply bandpass filter, Butterworth filters. We apply digital filters to remove these artifacts from our signal. And then we extract features, for which we use MATLAB again for feature extraction, machine learning, and then we interpret and translate the digital metrics for the clinicians to interpret the diseases. All right. So MATLAB family, the MathWorks product family can be divided into three things. So MATLAB basically uses Simulink and Stateflow for graph modeling, simulation of driven systems. All right. And as we discussed, it's a matrix laboratory. It's a high performance programming language for technical computing, integrating computation, visualization, and programming in a easy to use environment. Okay. So I'll be discussing some basic codes with you. I'll be starting some basic operations with you to help you get familiar with the computational load that MATLAB online can process. So locally it can process a lot of heavy computational load, but online it takes a bit of time. But to process simple addition, subtraction using logical operators, relational operators, you won't need a heavy computation requirement. So you can do it in MATLAB online. So why are we using MATLAB in biomedical signal processing? Or anything for that matter? Why do we use computational tools? As senior discussed with you, I discussed somewhat. Why are we using it?
Visualization.
Visualization. Okay.
Analyze this.
Analyze the signal. So what happened was, there was a patient, okay. He had a lot of chest pain. He got admitted to the hospital. And he was admitted to the ICU and he was under constant monitoring. So the nurses came in. There was a nurse in charge of that patient, 24-hour in charge. So she was constantly monitoring his vitals, his ECG waves and everything. And while monitoring, she found out that there was a particular morning when there was a disturbance in his ECG waveform, which indicated ventricular fibrillation. So what happens in ventricular fibrillation is, your heart has 4 chambers, 2 atriums, 2 ventricles. So your lower chambers, they start behaving in an erratic fashion. They don't pump blood efficiently. So the nurse got very scared. She called the medical team for help. There were code red. The medical team rushed in, the doctors rushed in. And what they found out that the patient is sitting in his bed normally. Okay, he's talking to his fellow patients, nothing is wrong with him. Then why did the ECG pattern, why was it misinterpreted? Why was it wrong? Movement, right? There were some motion artifacts. So what happened was, there was a loose electrode. Patient was he was respiring heavily, he was sweating, and there was a loose electrode, and due to that loose electrode, there were artifacts, and that gave a wrong signal. Okay. So that's where the importance of computational tools like MATLAB comes in. So in before interpretation, before display of any signal, it's very important that we have a feedback mechanism. So if a signal is wrong, why is it wrong? So there should be a feedback loop that should go back to the processor. They should say that why is the signal wrong? It's not expected, right? Okay. So we'll be doing basic addition and we'll be checking if MATLAB is correct. Okay. Because MATLAB is wrong at times. I can show you that. Opened already? Okay. So we'll learn all of this in a while, but let me first show you the evaluation matrix. So these are the two schemes. You'll have to choose between the two. Okay. So there'll be a lab record for 25 marks. There'll be a class test and assignment for 25 marks. The final examination will have 25 marks, and the class lab notebook, which you'll have to maintain, would also have 25 marks. For your assignments, you need to maintain a separate notebook. For your class tests, you need to maintain a separate notebook. All right. So please start maintaining your notebooks right from the very beginning. Don't come up with sheets. It gets very difficult for us to keep track and for you to keep track, most importantly, right? You can also choose your scheme to the second scheme. In this one, you'll have to make a lab record. You'll have to make a lab class notebook, both of which you need to maintain online. Not online, means not online, but in real time. You have to maintain, keep it up to date. And then you can choose your project for 50 marks. So you'll have to choose between the two for your evaluation and let us know. So we can and make a record of your evaluation. So we'll be sharing some Google Sheets or Excel files, and where you have to choose and you have to let us know from the very beginning which scheme you'll be following throughout your lab work. All right.
Okay, so everybody is Wi-Fi is connected right now, right? So you first of all you make a Google account, ready, and then basically we'll be showing how to access the MATLAB. So today the class will be basically interactive. We will be basically introducing the MATLAB interface and how can we use MATLAB for different operations, simple operations today. And as you already said, that why we use MATLAB for biomedical processing, because BSP or this subject is all about mathematics, because mathematics and computer science, they are integrated. So in order to analyze the signals, there must be a program language, right? For example, Python, MATLAB. So MATLAB is easier because of two main things. One, Python has a problem is when the version of Python changes, then there are compatibility issues on the Python codes. But MATLAB doesn't have that basically. Basically, there are two interfaces in MATLAB.
Open source.
So, yeah. So
it's difficult to keep changing the codes every time a Python version constantly to it. The MATLAB versions are also updated every year. However, we not get any such major changes in MATLAB. And that's why researchers, they always prefer using MATLAB professionally. Python also means, but MATLAB is not a. So,
if suppose you are working now, suppose you are doing your PhD. So, in the minute of your PhD work, Python version changes. So, it becomes much more better. So, Like it should sort of students vectors to stay in the class. It's compatibility issue of not go. So at the end, if you want to change the coding from MATLAB for the cycle, you can do it. Now there's a guidance are there. It's the period of MATLAB code, it will be set up. Then whatever coding you want to do, everything can now be done by say ChatGPT or say Claude gets the best. The main thing how you learn what is to understand what you want to do and why you want to. So if the basics are not clear around the subject, then it will be difficult for you to implement well. So take the practical classes seriously, and if you have any issues, you are not able to understand, get it clear. Here here external. Okay. So don't keep it. If you think that okay, my other friends are not asking, why should I ask? And you are not going to be comfortable. You can basically learn less. See, whether you are from pharmacy or the background doesn't matter. The any the matters in fact you are in this course, biomedical engineering course, which I believe was one of the what do you call it? It's more one of the precedent courses in India. So if you see, you will find some of your peers are from electronics, some of them are from electrical, some of them are from biotech, some of them are from this thing. Why this interdisciplinary nature? Because they think to the nature has not segregated engineering from biology or chemistry. And this course will give you an opportunity to learn all the aspects. And nowadays you have heard of one first word, critical thinking. So what is critical thinking? You need to think out of the box. Yes. So how do you think? How do you think? Suppose you are a biologist, you are from bodily background, so for example, pharmacy, some of you have a pharmacy. Okay, so they know the biological, but they are not very conversant with the engineering subjects. So if they don't know the engineering subject, how can they think like an engineer? Right? And it goes vice versa. If you are an engineer, how to understand what you need in biology? At least you need to have some information about that subject. If you are an engineer, you need to know something about biology. And if you are a biologist, you need to know something about engineering. So that you can correlate both the things and then get a solution for whatever the problem is there in the industry. Okay? So, critical thinking is all about having a holistic overview over the subject and what is the lacuna in that field, you try to solve that problem. Okay? So, this biomedical engineering course will give you that perspective. So, you see, you will be studying biomechanics, where you will be studying the basic concept of intelligent information. In this course, you are studying about the different things. In biomedical instrumentation, you will be learning about instrumentation, basic instrumentation, and their applications in biomedical industry. Right? So, if you see, you are getting knowledge from varied perspectives. So, that can help you in developing the critical thinking. So, in that way, it gives you a wonderful opportunity. This course, it gives you a wonderful opportunity to work in a diverse field.
So all of you are able to open your MATLAB online.
So everybody
You have already logged in.
logged in.
Right? So during login, please use your institute email ID. And in your email ID, if you have 0, so you get an OTP. So you have to verify your account and then signing in the MATLAB. Yes.
Note down the web address of the online MATLAB, matlab.mathworks.com.
What about on the mask is like mark this down.
Okay, everybody just the small announcement. You will have class notebook. Okay, I've already assigned just for one more reminder. So in the class notebook, be very careful. Date wise, whatever classes will be there, you please update whatever we will be teaching, I will be teaching, or sir will be teaching. So the major as per the course is basically to make you understand how MATLAB is like required. So you have to solve like whatever problems will be being in the class. Please note it down in the class and maintain the lab class notebook very carefully because you have to show the calculations and also take a small printout of the code that you are running and paste it there. There is a lab class notebook. Then again you have to make a lab record. You know already know about that. So to make a lab record basically where they have the codes, your results will be there. And remember that in the next class you have to submit the lab class notebook. Also there will be an assignment we will be giving you. So like
Class note, you will be from the next class onward. That class, at the end of that class, you have to submit it and get. And record. Next day you have to pick up and you have to submit at the beginning. And while making the lab notebook, there are 2 ways. Either you can take a printed copy. If you are taking a printed copy, you can have one you can submit one. But in that case, what here I have found in these instances that one student will work, the other one will not work. And in that case, there will come a little retain and that will not take any action. Okay, that is not acceptable. If you want to make your own notebook, handwritten notebook, that is also acceptable. If you want to get individual printouts, that is also acceptable. But minimum one from two. Okay. So many students they prefer to write handwritten notes. So if you are okay with that, I am so this slide. So whatever mode you want, do it. And if you are submitting it in the online mode, then make sure that you are submitting the word type also what is. Notebook is really mentioned maintain it because we are having 25 marks. As we go into the what we call advanced methods, we will finding that we need to do some mathematics. So we need to note down the mathematics, whatever you are getting, and you have to validate it by doing the mathematics in the analysis system. Right. It is having 25 marks. And another thing, those you select the first option of evaluation. In that, you will be having this thing. Whatever has been taught till today, whatever they have committed to you, or whatever the lab will be doing to work, next time you will be having a quiz. It's basically a class test. So, you not doing. So, only if you will have the quiz. Anything you wish to ask about the evaluation or anything? Yes, please. So you need to pick up one project. So it should be related to, there should be some components of DSP. You can see the or by various system, whatever it is. And at the end of the semester, we have given the sequential output from there. Say for example, you want to do this, you want to implement some AI-based unique project, okay? Where you want to collect the pricing signals to either from the database or manually collect it. After collecting, you process the signals and then look for PG level design, not PG level mistake. And every weekend, you have to show the progress. Based on the progress, I will be giving the marks. Because the main criteria set by the institute is that continuous learning system. So you need to see the incremental work that you are doing with the figure. It's not that after you be coming and you be putting I have done this. That will not work. Every week you have to show that yes, I have done this, and this is the incremental work that I have done. What to say? Anything else you need to ask?
Do you have any questions for sir?
Any other questions?
So from theory and model lab work, we can check process for both.
Both will be separate.
So both we can take constant.
But you have to understand whether you will be able to take two projects at one time. And there will be multiple subjects. That's up to you. So,
Yeah, we select the steel person. There are projects. Typically, in the has some major PhD started. We have to live not really.
you can do on your own. Okay. If you have any, if you need any guidance, you can come to me. And usually I will come. If you need any help that I get stuck here, but you can do work magically or
The topic, which is particular projects.
So this alternative is only MATLAB and we ready fix. The practical is start from now. Other assumptions are what you are
Some parts of this
yeah, but she's not all of the sounds and I say it's okay. So I'm not saying that if you probably this part of the videos, even the receiver, start as an independent point. Nowadays, those who are choosing the scheme to project, they need to get their project verified or approved by the before the next class. Because not getting approved, then that could be the noise. একটা বাচ্চা নিয়ে সে ক্লাসে বাদ করে তোমরা পুরোটা গেলে
I think all of you are open your MATLAB accounts, right?
Yes.
We'll be using the command window today. We won't be uploading any programs or scripts. We will be using command window. We'll be using we'll learning small calculations. We'll be getting familiar with the syntax of MATLAB, how it takes inputs. And we have to direct our inputs going further in that manner. Alright? We'll be learning the use of syntax, what are syntax errors, what kind of files you can upload in MATLAB. Alright? So I'll be starting with a very basic problem. You make the finger work as well. English. It's English. So is it visible? Are you guys able to see it? If you're not, please let me know. Alright?
No, the thing is that what he is doing x equals to 5. What he is doing, he is creating a variable x and he is assigning a value to that. And why the semicolon? To suppress the output. Okay. Suppose if he doesn't give this thing and just semicolon and just enter,
No output.
it will just say y equals to 10. It will give the result. If you want to suppress the results, then you have to give the semicolon. It will be stored in the memory of the MATLAB and it will be available for you to use until and unless you override that variable. Okay. Say for example, at a later stage you say y equals to say 5. Then the previous variable y equals to 10, it will be overwritten with y equals to 5. Okay.
So even if
किसको?
undo the command. So I want MATLAB to compute the result to this. I'm asking MATLAB. So what is z? So z is equals to x plus y, and I have used a semicolon at the end of my command, right? So now MATLAB will give me the result. So what z equals, right? It won't. It will always suppress the output. It will not give you any result. So if you want the result, you'll have to omit your semicolon. So I'll be writing the same thing again. So you can see it's 15. I have already assigned values to my variables, and my variables have already been entered into the command window, and MATLAB has already processed the output. This is the desired output. But there are instances, and always remember that MATLAB reads from left to right, just like we do, right? Or do we read from right to left? I'm not sure.
So if you have to get the command window clear, then it is CLC. Okay. And same, whatever variables you have chosen, X, Y or Z, whatever you have chosen, it is in the memory of the MATLAB. If you want to remove that memory, then it is clear all, clear space all. So if you see, as I am talking with you, it is similar to that you can talk with the MATLAB with plain English language. So the commands, this is the usefulness of MATLAB. Okay, this is one of the usefulness, and this, so if you are working in a specific domain, getting the prompts in your mind, it becomes easier. Okay. And the second advantage, as you already told, if you are working on a long project, then it becomes the non-compatibility issues, it is not there. So these are the two main advantages.
So MATLAB uses this search path logic. It checks the workspace for variable name. Checks. We have to check the built-in functions. We check the directory for M files. So the .m files are your scripts which we upload. So MATLAB reads all those files and then gives us the desired outputs that we want. Okay. So the outputs can be in the form of Excel sheets. They can be in the form of reports. They can be in the form of basically a plain text. Anything that you want, you'll have to manipulate, you'll have to engineer your code in such a manner that it gives you your desired result. Okay. So we check the MATLAB search path for the directories. How we do that? We'll be coming to that in a while, but right now for today's class, we only need to understand how MATLAB processes the syntax errors, what are syntax errors, what are operators. I know we are all familiar with what are operators. We have studied it in our school days, but we often forget as we grow up. To make space for the new things that we learn.
So what is syntax? And can you tell me what is syntax in a programming language? The pattern of the following programming language. So as we discussing, so you must remember when you are progressing this course, you have to be very careful while troubleshooting any code or any program. Why? The reason being, every programming language has a different syntax. Okay. Depending on your code, like pattern, for example, open source code or licensed code, your syntax will definitely change. So it's a very it's a tip to all of you guys as you will be working with the programming languages. So you be very careful while you are writing. For example, when I did Java, you said import Java star. It's the first line. Why import? Because it import all the functions from the Java database. In here also, what is with the command window? The command window stands for an interface to work with the commands. Now you will see when we will be progressing, we have two windows visible. One is called script print and the other is command window. Now in the command window, when we give any kind of commands, you have to be very careful that the operators that we give, it should coincide with the syntax that we are there for the window. Clear? Back to the beginning.
So any input that we give, MATLAB always takes that in the form of arrays, 1x1 matrices, as we discussed. So it might seem a bit intimidating at first when you look at everything, the slides and all, but once you go through them, again and again, it's really very easy. It's not intimidating at all. And if it's intimidating, my senior is always there to help you. So these are integer constants, the digits 0 to 9. Plus minus signs are optional, no spaces or commas are required. So here you can see there are examples in cases of every constants, integer constants, real constants, complex constants. These are the codes that you'll be getting in, and this is the input you'll be getting. You'll only be getting the inputs if you don't use the semicolon. If you are using, you'll be only getting the inputs if you don't use the semicolon. If you You will not use a semicolon. Yes. So you will be, if you use the semicolon, you will not be getting your desired results. All right. So we'll be coming to some problems. So character constants are variable nomenclatures. Strings are arrays of characters, and as we have discussed, MATLAB takes everything in the form of arrays. So strings are arrays of characters that are closed in single quotes. Okay, so to include a single quote inside a string, we use two single quotes together. Okay, as you can see this in this example. So these are the predefined constants. We'll be using everything, we'll be coming to everything in a while. It will be very easy for you to understand once we solve these examples in the command window, right? So we are all familiar with the arithmetic and relational operators, plus, minus, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We are all familiar with exponentiation. We are all familiar with these operators. So while solving our problems, we'll be using these operators and we'll be learning how MATLAB takes the inputs. And sometimes what happens is something that we solve on pen and paper, it will be completely different to what MATLAB solves. And that's when you'll be understanding the real problem that you'll have to encounter while coding. So these are your relational operators: greater than, less than, greater than, equals, equals.
So when we use the arithmetic operators, so at that time, what is used a decimal point is there. This points
Yes, you will be using decimal points while you will be doing your calculations. So, are you familiar with the logical operators? Truth tables, logic gates. So there are three basic, there are lots of logical operators, XOR, NOR, but I'll be only discussing three basic logical operators. Okay? So we have and, we have not, and we have alt. So what not does is, imagine, I know I'm writing on top of text, it might be difficult for you to see, so I'll move here. I'll be writing the logical operators here, right? So I'll be making this table for now. So what happens is there's an input and there's an output. So if your input is true, then your output is going to be false. If your input is false, the output is going to be true. Yes? These are the basics. I'll be just going through the basics because you'll be needing to use these logical operators while you're solving your problems. We'll be coming to the problems in a while, but I'll just be brushing up on your arithmetic operators, logical operators. Arithmetic operators are easy. 5 plus 5, 2 plus 2. Okay? So and then there comes another one, it's called AND. So in AND what happens is, there is an input and there is an output. I'll not be doing all of these logics, but I'll just be discussing a simple logic. So if in any case your input, it has two variables actually. So one of them is A, B, and this is the output you'll be getting. Okay? So if both your input is true, then what will you be getting? Any idea? Your output is also going to be true, right? But in any case, if one of your inputs are false, then it is false. Exactly.
Similarly, in case of all what you'll be getting, similar thing, input, output, two inputs, remains an output. So here, if any of your inputs are true, then the output you'll be getting is true. Exactly. And if both your inputs are true, then the output you will be getting is also true. 1 plus 1 यहाँ पे 2 नहीं होगा. Okay. So this is what we will be getting. So these are the basic logic gates. Based on the logic I just discussed with you, we'll be solving the problems. But first, I need you to solve this one, that example 2.1. All right. I multiplied by j plus k into L. So you'll have to assign the values into your MATLAB command window. So start solving. Sure. You can shift here if you have problem. You can shift here. You can shift here. You can do solve it. You don't need to click here. I'll provide all the PPTs when let's see. This is just for you to get familiar. And you can also check using your calculators that once you do solve it manually, also you'll get the same result. However, as we go deeper into the other problems, you need to understand that MATLAB takes values in forms of 0 and 1 when you are using the logical operator.
For today's class notebook, please submit it because you might not be having it today. So get a new copy today and tomorrow, the end of tomorrow, is class meeting. You write it on the can you say that tomorrow you submit it to the
You want to solve in 10 minutes, sir?
So, anybody having any problem with this, please start anything. Super mark. Thank you. Now,
Okay.
example 2.1.
Yes.
Everybody solved?
Yes.
Let's show me. Good. 26. Okay. So we have done with the basic operation, it is multiplication and plus. Then we will be going for example 2.2. This is called the exponential function. Okay. Then Okay, just do this. Just do this part. Okay. You just cross check the answer. Just get it. This one. Super example. So you know that what is actually this one? X to the power y to the power z. Okay. That means x to the power y to the power z. Just do it and report to the answer. It is wrong, you will correct it. Don't worry.
हो गया सबका? Are you guys done?
Everybody has done this? Is someone different too? The answer will match, we'll just check it out. Answer matching not. Answer matching? No, not. Okay. Answer or not? Not matching. 2.5. I will just check the answer. But the first question you explain. So now, all the letters will be in small, okay? X3 power y z, we will just check the answer. Like the example, we will actually the answer, okay? So, the major point of making you understand this, there might be cases, there might be some cases where we will just check the answer over there. 2.5. Yeah, it's 2.5. I've already calculated. I'll just check the answer and give it to this time. Okay. Okay, so we are done with the basic operations, right? So then we're going for the next part. So you can just do this part.
First, the last part. It was given to books. So that is true. It's not respect. It is put by age. It's the water color.
Okay, so now we will doing this part. Take any value, x, y, z, whatever values we described in the last example. Take this, do these functions and show it to me. Everybody. Any problem? Please tell me. I'll check everybody's computer. And remember one thing, this is basically the logarithm we calculate on base E base. Normally in computer science, all logarithms are calculated on E base. We have to convert it to the 10 base. That's a different aspect. Do you know how to convert it from log E to log 10? Anybody knows? How to convert from log E to log 10? There is base change. There's a particular term like number that is quantified or divided. What is the number? 2.3. Good. 0.3. Good. That's brave on that. So like, can you tell me one thing? What are these particularly like SQRT log? What are these called in computer science? Anybody? These are called it starts with F, ends with N, abort functions. So whatever mathematical functions we use, the same applies for here also. Log means it's a logarithmic function. SQRT means it's a square root function, right? So whenever we are going for any function, we have to call that function in the MATLAB database. So remember, when we are writing any kind of function, so we will be calling that function in the MATLAB database. Okay. Therefore, we have to be very careful while we are writing any code. We have to be very careful. Why? There are two major reasons. One, the syntax, and second, you have to call that function so that the MATLAB can provide you and solve in the background. Yeah.
So the main logic here is, while we are writing the mathematical formulas, the previous answer is wrong. This one, 2.50, right? So even if you solve it manually in your calculators, you will see that it's coming to 2.50. So not all answers are correct. We'll have to do it ourselves and see which one is. And we cannot just copy everything into the lab notebook. We'll have to do it ourselves because it's practical. No problem. So this is the mathematical formula that we'll use on pen and paper. But when you enter the code in MATLAB, log base e is not required because the log function is natively computed. Okay, into the MATLAB interface. So log base e, don't need to mention the base e separately while using MATLAB. There are some other problems, you can do it or we can move on. And just to show you that MATLAB is not always correct and MATLAB's also correct, we'll have to compute this manually. Do you know what the formula for Fahrenheit to centigrade or centigrade to Fahrenheit is? You know? So if you compute it manually, I'm sure you'll get that answer.
Mr. Kamal, everybody please check the formula. C by 5 is equal to 8 divided by 9. Do the formula or solve, then go to MATLAB and solve.
And then you learn that these degree, centidegree, fast, these are all the commands that will help you in conversion. You use these commands into your MATLAB interface, you'll get the same results.
First you do in the copy.
Depending on the MATLAB versions, there might be change in commands, but not necessarily. Commands don't change. Have you computed these? Any of you?
First of all, you do the example.
So who was familiar with MATLAB before? Please do it.
And then you do the MATLAB and show it to you. Everybody, please do. Calculate.
You're familiar with MATLAB, that's why you're using in pen and paper.
I haven't bought laptop.
Boring.
It's okay.
You're from this group?
Yeah.
So we should have a device, you know, because if you're not able to visualize, you won't be able to solve anything.
The formula.
Solve the problems, get your own answers.
Or answers. Please don't depend on this slide.
Yes.
Just for like recommendation. Solve, verify, and then report it to us. We will
Sir, excuse me.
Everybody solve example 2.8 in the copy. Straight to me one by one. Everybody must get the copy stick, otherwise will not evaluate. Yeah. You solve it, you do it, and here also, example 2.8, solve the population. In MATLAB and in copy, everybody must show and get it checked by me. Otherwise, I'll not evaluate the copy. In this way, your class will be happening again.
And always remember that there's an output for every question given in your slides, but please don't follow those outputs. Compute those problems yourself because those outputs may be misleading. Okay?
formulas we have it's okay. You don't think that you'll have to memorize all of these formulas, are you?
Formula.
Are you guys thinking that you'll have to memorize this? Maybe for the exams you do, but I don't think so. So for long codes, usually you'll be making codes, you'll be learning how to make codes. Nowadays you can use AI to make codes. No problem, but it has to be correct. It has to be computationally compatible with MATLAB.
कितना टाइम लगता है? First solve it, okay? First solve it. See, the formula for your test is this one, right? Okay, so this is the formula for your centigrade to Fahrenheit conversion. C by 5 is equal to F plus 32 by 9. So it's already given 35.4 degrees centigrade. Just put it into C. What will happen? 9C is equal to 5 by 32, and then we get the answer.
Okay.
Please solve it in your copies.
So are you guys done? Then we'll be moving on to the operational sums, right?
Okay, so we'll move on to this.
Okay. So I'll be solving a problem for you. I'll be entering these exact codes, and we'll be seeing what results we get. All right. And then I'll be showing you there might be certain errors which I might be showing you. There might be certain additional problems that I have for you.
So,
Okay. Wi-Fi disconnect also.
what up? Oh, no, it's okay. This something for nothing. That's okay. It's described to far. So there is all.
Okay, so this problem that I'll be doing right now, it looks very big, but it's not. For MATLAB makes everything really easy for us. But the only thing is that you'll have to understand the logic behind what MATLAB is going to compute for you. Okay. So what was the problem? So this is the problem, right? So what do we do at first? What is the first step of solving the problem? This problem, what's the first step? Huh? So we assign values to our variables. That's the first step, right? So what we'll do is we'll assign values to. So x equals 5. Y? Yo, किसी ने नहीं देखा. 15 and z equals -2. Z equals -2. You see that I'm using semicolon because if I don't use it, it'll again think that Z is the output, it'll give me -2Z. So we don't want the output, the input as the output. That's why we will use semicolons at the end.
Okay. So what is it asking for? The most important thing is we'll just type this, whatever's written. Yahi type karna hoga. But what's important is we'll have to understand the logic how MATLAB computes. We'll be understanding it further. X greater than Y, right? X greater than Y. And what was the first problem? X less than Z, right? So which logical operator have I used? Right. So now we'll get the output. Oh, we are not getting it. Semicolon, right. So what do I have to do to get the output? Remove the semicolon. So what does this mean? The result is false. Why?
Both are false. In output.
Exactly.
Both are zero, so output is.
Exactly. So we'll understand this. We'll break it into two halves, and then we'll use the logic that and helped us to learn. So x equals 5, y equals 15. So is 5 greater than 15? No. So it's false. So 0, right? And is x less than z? It is also false because 5 is not less than -2, right? Or is it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just doing what you guys are saying.
Okay, so let's, I'll just add on to it. Yeah, this,
manually put
okay, just one thing I'll just add on to him. Have you studied about set theory, anybody? Like intersection or union? What is actually he tried to explain is, I'll just draw here, like for you guys. Let's say, so just we'll draw a set. Okay, suppose there are two, like I'll just show you because this is important. Like we need to relate mathematics. Okay, so this is a set. Okay, like suppose this is A and this is B. Okay, what happens is whenever we are going for AND, okay, we go for a particular thing called intersection. What is the meaning of intersection? It means there should be a commonality or a common thing between A and B variables. So if I consider these two sets, then in the lower class I have studied that this part is your AND. So as the last problem was there, why have I explained you this part? This is called a Venn diagram. Okay. Now why am I explaining this? Why it's so important? The mathematics behind it is very simple. This is your intersecting point, right? Your intersecting point. So if there are some common numbers both in A and both in B, then only your intersection will be valid. So for that, what we write is, in this case, A intersection B equal to 5. 5 means it's a null set. So MATLAB, what it does is interpreting your set theory or mathematics into a simple. That's why it's called logical. Why? Because it is a logic operator. Why 0? 0 means a null set in mathematics. Clear? And if we go for OR, like for example, I will show you here. Like two sets are there, A and B, let's say. OR means you will be including both of the entire portion. That is why it's called A union B. Okay. That is when two sets are being united. OR means A or B or both. So that's why I have shaded the entire portion. Clear? Back to.
Okay. So you understood the first sum, right? You understood the logic behind it. So both of these were false instances, and that's why the output, the resulting output that we got was false. So we'll do the next one. X less than Y.
X less than Y. X less than Y. X less than Y.
X less than Y. And or and
X less than Z.
X less than Z. So this is also false. So you understood the logic behind that? Why it's false? Now I'll come to the next logical operator that we have. It's OR, right? So X equals Y and Y is greater than X. We'll check the output. X equals Y. This logic is 1. Right?
Once
We understood why it's 1. We understood the logic behind or. So is x equals to y?
no.
So false, right? 0. Or is y greater than x? True? Something is greater than x? X? No? Okay. So, or gives you, so if any one of your inputs is true, then the result is true. That's what we got. Okay. So I'll give you one more problem for you guys to solve. I have a lot of problems, but I'll just give you a simple one.
So it's clear to everybody, like what we are discussing about the operators, basics of MATLAB, how to open.
So open your command windows and type whatever I'm saying. Just tell me when you're ready. You ready? Everyone? You have your command windows open. Start typing x equals 25. Now in the next line, 10 less than x less than 20. Less than 20. So what's the answer? So which logical operator have I used, or which arithmetic operator, relational operator have I used here? Greater than, less than, right? So what's the answer? What are you getting? 1. Huh? 1. So is x, huh?
It is like here the it's less than x.
It is true, right?
It's the question where it is
So the answer is not. But MATLAB is giving you logical, right? So what does that mean?
Does 25 lie between 10 and 20? No, right? So if 25 doesn't lie between 10 and 20, then why is MATLAB giving us false results? Exactly. It is reading from left to right. So even if it does, then why is it still giving us false results? Even if it reads from left to right,
it is the first case.
correct. So what's happening here is, when we are saying that when 25, if it lies between 10 and 20, we are asking that to MATLAB. So is 10 greater than 25? No. 25 is more. So what should be the output? 0. Right? And is 0 less than 20? It is. So MATLAB is not wrong. It's taking your relation from your first variable, the first relation is getting the equation, and it's using that relation to go to the next part of the equation. And that's why it's giving you that it's a true answer. X does lie between 10 and 20. 10 and 20. But it doesn't, right? How many of you did not understand? How many? Okay. What did you understand?
What can I solve it?
Control line.
Okay, everybody.
So what was the sum? X equals 25, right? This was the first command that we entered, right? So we assigned a numerical value to our variable. What's the next step that we did?
10 less than
10 less than x less than 20. So this is the whole equation. So what we do is we break it into two halves. Okay. So is x less than 10? So what should be the output? False, right?
X is
X is less than 10? Greater than 10? So what should be the output?
Should the output?
Okay. Then if 1 is the output and we have 20 here, is this true? Is this true? It is, right? So what should be the output? 1. So what did MATLAB give you? So was MATLAB wrong or were we wrong? We were not wrong, but MATLAB was also not wrong.
That means MATLAB divided into two separate sections.
Exactly. It used the first relation to compute the next part of the equation.
So
यहाँ पे in this equation we don't have any logical operators. We only have relational operators. In the previous one which I saw, we do have logical operators, right? So can you guys solve an equation for me now? A very easy one.
okay, so you solve this equation, problem 2.1. Okay, and this the show it was. First you solve in the copy, then solve in the increment. Solve this.
No, don't solve it in the copy first. First solve it in the MATLAB.
Solve in the copy. Then both of them will solve.
But they have to write MATLAB.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Many of them are weak in mathematics.
That's it.
Many of them are very good in mathematics.
If you want to brush up on your mathematical skills, you can.
Classes, mathematics and computing both are there. So I'll see you check copies and the check.
Yes.
Before you go, attendance I will take and get all the copies checked from you.
So is it tough? Is it easy? Very easy?
Just simply put the values and get the answer.
Be very careful using brackets, parentheses.
Yes.
That's a hint I'm giving you. It's going to be very crucial for this sum. Parentheses and everything.
So what you do is CX plus you create one bracket. Here was slash or division sign. Then
Whether they will do it or not.
and then you check. You try to iterate, understand what the problem is. Okay. Any problem? Please tell us. Something is for talking.
Which one? 5.5.
You solve the copy?
I want to see how it is solving the It's not relevant.
कब से रन नहीं कर रहा, एक भी रन नहीं कर रहा, क्यों रन नहीं कर रहा? Why are you not able to run? Exactly. Why are you not putting it in the command window? Why are you putting it in the live script and trying to run? You're not putting anything in the command window.
Now run this. Thanks.
Alright.
This is for uploading our live scripts, the codes. That's when you modify your code. You manually debug your code. That's when you upload your scripts, and that's when you run the code. So if I upload something here, I will run it here. So at the end of the class, I'll also upload a sample code for you, and I'll show you by running the code how MATLAB works when we run a code using MATLAB, right?
Okay, so can you solve the second problem? Problem 2.8. Okay. So the same values are there, the P you got now, the P4 you got. So solve this problem. Volume is equal to P r pi into like maybe r square into h. So you can take any like r, whatever you want, a r and h you pick whatever you want, and just first do the copy and then the MATLAB. Please solve it. So anybody like not familiar with matrices? Like anybody knows how what is the matrix? I think was next class we will do a matrix. Just brush up your concepts on matrix. Okay. So next class.
You have to assign a value for P.
Yeah. P you got na P equal to 4. Everybody. P it's okay. Like no, it's not P. It's pi. It's pi.
Oh,
That's why I like misspelled it intentionally. It's pi, not P. Okay. R and H should take anything, any value you take. It's not P. It's pi. Pi equal to 3 by 1. Okay, pi equal to 3 by 1 for take the value. Sorry. And whenever you are doing a division operators, be very careful about the division values.
So the next problem is just for you guys to practice. You can assign values to your variables. You can see whether you are able to code it in MATLAB. Okay? You can assign whatever values you want. The most important thing is that you are able to code it successfully in MATLAB. So you cannot just type pi into r square into h. So r is radius, right? And h is height, right? So you have to assign values to that. Those are all variables.
So like this is one announcement to all of you guys. You decide among yourselves like about the scheme 1 and scheme 2. We will I will talk to sir. We will send a sheet, Excel sheet. So if you want to do the project on what like the 50 marks project, you be very careful. Try to finalize your projects by this week itself. So in the next class, by next Wednesday, your projects are finalized. We will give you time. By Monday, you must submit it. Okay, the sheet. We will send the sheet in the WhatsApp. And those who are filling groups, everybody, just one announcement. It's not that one will do and one will not do. Okay, that's why I expect everybody individually. Lab report you can do like in groups, but copy should be maintained individually, like the lab classroom. And for next class,
when you will giving the physical things. Either what you can do is you can take a screenshot and paste it if you want, or else you have to solve in date wise whatever problems they give.
From next class.
Next, by tomorrow. By tomorrow, you have to submit all the copies. Like the lab task number. I will checking and getting it. No, this is the one. And in the lab records, you have to the problems that
So you can note down these assignments. You can do it later on if you want. Okay.
So how many copies for this lab? See, first is the lab class notebook, the first copy. Another is the assignment copy, 2, and lab report 3.
Are you guys done? You can note down the problems. You can solve it later on.
It's not
No problem. And we'll also be sharing the slides with you. So you can refer to those slides, the equations that they have solved previously in the slides, and you can refer to those equations, those results, those commands to solve your problems. You won't be knowing all the commands, you won't be knowing all the syntaxes, but you'll have to learn eventually. And it's very easy to learn. It's not very difficult to learn. You can use AI tools to generate your commands and everything, learn commands. What commands can you use to troubleshoot errors? We'll be teaching you that in the subsequent classes. So can I do a sum?
okay.
Or have you had enough sums? Can I do a sum? Okay, so can we get the square root of 16 using power notation? Huh? To the power half. To the power half. So how do we put it in MATLAB? What's going to be the command? Any idea?
16 to the power
16
to the power
to the power half in brackets. ऐसे.
to the power inside the bracket to the power.
So what's going to be the command in MATLAB? This is not the command, right?
So 16 A equals to B equals to by taking individual variable.
A equals to B.
A equals to 16, B equals to 1,
A
C
equals to 16
B equals to 1,
is equals to 1,
C equals to
0,
0.5.
0.5. B equals to 0.5. Okay.
No.
Not 1 and 0.
Okay, so
16
and 0.5.
Okay.
A
A
is equal to 16%.
equals to
16%.
16 point
Power.
power 0.5. ऐसे. So how do we put it in MATLAB?
Okay.
16 16 yeah.
A equals to A to the power
X equals to A to the power B. That's what I'm asking you. X equals to A to the power B, right?
Yes.
Then how do we put that code in MATLAB? We have to put it in terms of load. You have done? What's the result? Have you used power notation? Yes. Yes, you have done the correct. Yeah. But I'm asking you, how do we put it as a command? Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
he has told A and B, right? What is
Exactly.
actually he has a square root of that, right?
Okay.
So you can directly go what's not square root function. It is x equal to something, s equal to y equal to s equal to x. But if it's a different power, then different powers.
The question is, you have to get using power.
Please bring the like the problem.
It's a very simple, very easy problem. Just recall what I taught you in the beginning. We'll have to assign values
to each variables. That's the only logic you'll be requiring.
Is finally give me a problem.
Yes. Okay, so after you're done, बोलो मुझे. Now what a lecture. To have our software just in record software that we're going to say changes. That problem so that it's something. So that's
Tap problem there. All that is tap problem there. Several problems. Academically.
it's not problems that time. It's just a problem. At least some way I'm see that. Yeah, we are trying to know. And that's means a great thing in the back of something. Like percent per
Waste of the gain is.
then last is
That is definitely we have to try.
ये तो डील ये ठीक है have you guys solved the equation? Done? What's your answer? 4 हो गया चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं now Demaludha is going to give you a problem that's not easy one it's a lengthy problem with the same statement for the negative issue. It starts with speaking.
Sir, X is 0.57.
X is 0.57, Y is 2.6, and Z equal to 1.5785. Okay. Do in the copy and then in the MATLAB. I'm writing it freshly. X equal to 0.57, Y equal to 2.36, and Z equal to 1.5785. Okay. Simple problem is there. Do the problem. Because why am I doing this problem is for a basic reason. Many of you will do mistake in the syntax. And that is Z into X, so Z into X multiplied by X. So whole square, the total will be under the square. You have the calculator, right? So use the calculator, that's all. Be comfortable.
take 4, take 4. You can store the drive, you will add it like 0.8025. So 1.809. Or you can have a point. Infrastructure what are the problems? You can get it. So it's exactly. Okay, everybody have any problem? The problem is
It is 1.785, okay, is equal to 1.5785. Be very careful with the numbers. And for assignments also, this problem you will do with the cube root. This point right would be for 0.5. So you will do this 3 by 2. So it will be a cube root. Try to solve it afterwards.
Please solve this in MATLAB. So, not just manually MATLAB, because that's what you need to learn. Manually तो solve करना आता है, but MATLAB is not difficult.
Anybody having any problem here? I have given this problem for a particular reason. Reason is be very careful with the syntax and the parentheses. There are multiple operators involved, specification operator, division operator, square root operator. Everything must be very, very careful. You correctly solve and see. Where is it? Again, now. What is that? Okay, so we have done. Okay, चलेगा बस देखना सबसे देखो काम किया 5 के करो मुख्य रूप से नहीं करते हैं जो 5 लाइन करना होगा ठीक है anybody having any problem in MATLAB? These are all simple operators where brackets like parentheses, division and square root will be involved. And the power symbol also. Be very careful with syntax operators. Your answer will be 10.697, somewhat like that. Check it with the MATLAB also. हो गया इतना फास्ट हो गया हाँ ये तो सोच अच्छा गुड 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 वेरी गुड बहुत अच्छा अगला ना होगा सही It's just anybody having any problem with solving this problem? Okay. Now you solve the same problem, just change it to cube root, that is 3 by 2. Not less, do it in the power form 3 by 2. Remove the square root part, solve it to 3 by 2. Cube. Try to find out what's the answer difference. Sir. मतलब से it's a cube root. When you're doing square root, it's required half. And cube means connection requires 3 by 2. So SQRT will not be there. You have to just simply last in the power you will write 3 by 2. The second problem that we'll do is instead of doing a square root 0.5, we'll simply give it as 3 by 2. SQRT will remove and the last power will be 3 by 2. And solve the problem in MATLAB. Check what's the answer. And for manual also if you have time. Yes. Yes. Why is it doing first? Yes, and to answer. And it for man, and that is now, check whether the mantra was in the same. She don't
That is
I think I have said this.
Okay, solve this. You're done? You're done solving this? How many of you have solved this? Rest are all pending? Solved? सेकंड वाला हो गया नहीं हो रहा सेकंड वाला भैया दिखाएंगे तुमको सॉल्व
Anybody is suffering or not being able to solve the two problems? Anybody having any problems?
Anybody is suffering?
Suffering? Because you're all disease experts, disease biologists, or experts in biomedical signaling. So, any problem? Because in real life, you'll be solving these only.
So I will be changing this slide. Okay. I'll be giving you easy problems, not tough ones. Just apply your brain, then you'll be able to do it. Shall we give you some questions? Okay, सबका? You guys are done there, back there. Wow.
Everybody, no doubts? Last question.
Huh? Question mark? You have to get the answer. You have to put it into MATLAB. MATLAB will compute the answer for you. Question mark is not involved there. Question mark is just a question. Then you have to decide what the answer is going to be.
Still not how to assign the variables. Okay. You have already learned this. So
Keep in mind how does MATLAB read? It reads from left to right. So you solve the problem from left to right. Answer is 2. Answer is 2. Everybody is getting 2 answer or something else?
3 to the power.
No. 3 to the power 3 नहीं ये 3 कुछ नहीं.
and then let's solve the problem.
No. Don't solve this problem. This is the problem. This is the final problem.
C greater than 2 plus 1. Don't worry, you'll be learning more problems. C greater Okay, let's solve the next problem. 2 to the power 3 plus 2 to the power 5 plus 0.5 whole square greater than 2.5 whole square plus 2.5 whole square. Right? So you have to assign the variables accordingly and solve it to MATLAB.
So have you solved the first equation in MATLAB?
Yes, sir. First one is solved? Yes. The second one. Go for CLC and then solve it. But if you directly solve it, one problem. See whether that so this is the common syntax one analysis. It's important. So directly write it. Variable के कौन सा नाम से एक्सप्लोर but you have to assign variables, right? Exactly. X equal to 3, Y equal to Z equal to 1. Check out if you put that yes. Whenever I'm giving the problem, just try to assign variables and see. Because in mathematics and computing, you have to assign numbers not count, variables count.
So do you want me to solve it? The first one? First one का answer क्या आ रहा है? 0. Why are you getting it as 0? Why are you getting it as 0?
कितने लोगों का फर्स्ट वाला सम में आंसर 0 है? So, have you guys done the first sum? So you're all getting 0, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be explaining the logic now. It's okay. So what was the sum?
3
greater than 2 plus 1, right? So what MATLAB does is, do you remember the hierarchy table I showed you a while ago? Arithmetic operators. So what was the first operator? You remember? Or we can go back to that slide. You want me to go back to that slide? Okay. Okay, wait. So in the slide that had arithmetic operators, so somewhere around here, right? So what is the operator hierarchy that MATLAB follows? Plus. What's the first operator? Plus, right? So what MATLAB does is it gets 2 plus 1 equals 3. And is 3 greater than 3? What should be the output? 0. So what is MATLAB giving you? 0. But what are you doing? You're doing 3 greater than 2 plus 1. You're doing 3 is greater than 2.
That's 1.
So it's logical 1. And 1, you're getting 2.
That's when you have keys.
So that is the manual difference we have with MATLAB. Okay. That is the difference in logic you'll have to understand when you solve equations. Okay.
But here the reading from left side to right side is
No, because of the hierarchy of the operator.
so that's why hierarchy.
The hierarchy of the operator decides. The hierarchy of the operator decides that what you're going to do. The arithmetic operator plus was the top of the hierarchy. That's why MATLAB took it as.
Yes. At first 2 plus 3.
So it did 2 plus 1. Then it did is 3 greater than 3. The logic was 0. Okay. There'll always be a difference when you solve things manually. So compute it in MATLAB and see what's the difference. You have to understand that difference when you write codes, when you create your own codes, or when you run the codes that we give you and you encounter some errors. So you'll have to understand the reason why you're encountering errors. Errors can be due to absence of parentheses. Errors can be due to presence of spaces between codes. Errors can be due to case sensitiveness. So MATLAB is case sensitive, right? पिछले वाला slide. This problem? Hierarchy वाला slide. This is the hierarchy.
Right division, left division.
हाँ?
Right division, left.
ये और ये.
जो right division, left division के बाद
Right division और left division depends on your element. आपका element कहाँ पे place हो रहा है? इस operator के कहाँ पे आपका element place हो रहा है, आपका result वो determine करेगा. As you go on, एक example यहाँ पे था ना? ये वाला? Example एक बार you code this one into your MATLAB. You see what's coming with using this logical arithmetic operator that you saw. Use this operator. What was the operator? Left division and right division and because of the slash. Huh?
We can get the same result in certain cases, or we can get the different result. So, we wanted to
Have you completed the previous equation? This one? You complete this one. All right. You complete this equation. I'll be then doing the problem with the right and left division thing. Completed. This one is completed.
So you are talking about the right and left division, right? So actually what it is, like let's say we have two variables A and B. Now MATLAB is basically a matrix, right? So what happens is when we are going for A slash B, okay, it means A divided by B, okay, and where B is basically called the coefficient matrix. Why? Because we divide it to get the coefficients of the final matrix, and whenever we go for this one A slash B, then it will different B by A. Simple. Clear? Yes.
Just the inverse.
So
That's why I told you forward and backward slash.
so basically, if I A by B and equal to B by A, this is not equal. That's why we write it as, this is actually called INV of A, like INV of the A matrix.
Inverse of A.
Inverse of A.
So inverse of A is a syntax that MATLAB recognizes. Okay. So we are all putting up codes, we are all solving codes. We don't have to worry about the back end of MATLAB, right? So MATLAB has a back end, it's C. So MATLAB's back end is totally based on what C used to do. So the engineer Jack Little, who entrepreneurized MATLAB, he established MathWorks. What he did was, he built all the code that MATLAB is using to solve your equations in C. But with years, it varies because MATLAB needs to be updated with the recent world, right? So it just doesn't solve your equations, it does a lot of complex tasks. So these are easy computational tasks. What it does is it processes your signals, it does model fitting, it does curve fitting. And for all of these things, you need to install certain add-ons in MATLAB. You want me to show you that option? You can keep these annotations. We'll send you with these annotations, okay? These are not notes, but make your own notes, but refer to these. In case you forget something, you can refer to these. So there are some tricky problems, right? That we saw while solving using the logical operators, the relational operators. We'll have to keep that in mind. We'll also have to keep the BODMAS rule in mind. We have to keep all the rules that we already previously studied. We know these things. But what happens is when we solve it manually, there's something else. And when MATLAB processes it, there's something else. Because MATLAB divides the equation into halves. It then takes the logic from the first half, so it goes to the next one. It then goes to the next one.
MATLAB also follow their operator hierarchy.
So that follows operational hierarchy.
So that is
Follows parenthesis.
So it can follow from the bottom is.
It may or may not follow. You'll have to code. You'll have to see. You'll have to get errors. Then you'll have to troubleshoot those errors. Once you get to know MATLAB, once you get to learn MATLAB, it's a very easy tool. It's very simple. You just have to understand what you want to do. If your objective is clear, then everything is clear.
Okay, so
Python is complex, right?
yeah.
That's why.
Okay, so I think we will be.
Python is complex, and the main problem is with Python is with as the years go by, the versions change. So whatever you coded right now, there's AI. It will do it for you. But imagine when AI was not there before 2022. ChatGPT came in 2022, right? So before AI, just imagine the pain of converting those Python codes into the newly updated version Python codes.
Okay,
So
so
the versions here don't change. They even if they change slightly. You don't get errors while running a program. So let me just show you the add-ons once. So for performing different tasks, we require certain toolboxes. In online mode, all the toolboxes are pre-installed. You don't have to install anything. So you just go there, you explore add-ons, and anything that you search. For example, if I want to access the signal processing toolbox, I'll just search it on the add-on explorer and I'll see whether it's installed. We'll search the signal processing toolbox. We'll be using this toolbox during your experiments. This is already pre-installed, right? So please use MATLAB online. If it's required locally, we'll let you know. But for your experiments, I don't think it will be. There won't be a lot of computational hassle. So you use online mode as all the add-ons are already pre-installed in the online mode. Okay. So we have come to the end of our class. You have taken a lot of your time.
okay.
Clear the interface.
Yeah, CNC. Just have CNC. CNC.
Yeah, you can type clear all.
Here.
I think clear all, right?
Yes.
Is it clearing?
No. CNC.
CLC. Okay.
So it's
It's clear.
okay. So we will be coming to the end of the class.
And always save your whatever you're doing in your MATLAB. Try to save that in your notepad. Okay, so whatever you're solving, even if you're getting errors, copy that, save it in your notepad. Because once you type CLC or clear or whatever it is, once you type clear, then it's gone.
Okay, so be very careful, and we hope that from next session we will be more adept and expert in MATLAB. Okay.
How to select.